Welcome back. This video is entitled Going from a Teacher to a Mentor. This is actually something that I have been noticing about myself and kind of coming to the realization that I myself personally am actually trying to transition from a music teacher, but a teacher to a mentor. And so this video is just kind of about unpacking what that means. I'm also going to be a little vulnerable and just put it out there because I think the important part is to kind of share why my personal growth story, the catalyst for it. So this part, I'm going to be a little vulnerable. So it's funny, when I set out to kind of grow and make a conscious decision that I needed to grow personally, it was out of a dark time, we'll call it. Failure of a relationship, just dissolvement or dissolution of that relationship, had 2 kids. It was a very traumatic time. Without going into too many details, let's just put it this way. By the end, I think I had lost all of my confidence, felt emasculated. And again, just to throw it out there, if she ever sees this, is I had my fair share, and I definitely take ownership of a lot of flaws in myself and my character and other things. Not that this is an excuse, but I think growing up, I never really saw what a good model of those things should be like. Okay. And again, no details per se, but just to say, a lot of people, I think, when they reach the low point, it's, that's when there's just something that has to change. And by the grace of God, I was able to meet some mentors of mine, and some people came into my life that could model that stuff and started me on a path. But it was a slow path. And this has actually been 2 years in the making. But again, it's previous videos I've kind of talked about how COVID was actually, I think, the main catalyst that kind of just got me into this idea of true routine-based improvement. All right, so I just thought that was important because I want to make this clarification. I did not set out even to make this channel. I set off to just heal and grow from a traumatic experience. And yet through this growth, through these habits I've developed, through this system that I've started to put in place in my life that is rooted in personal growth and habits and consistent effort over time equals success, and probably just the benefit of being a teacher and knowing that part of what we do as teachers is we try to impart wisdom. We try, in essence, I've always simplified it this way. As a music teacher, I think what has made me successful, if you consider things I've accomplished successful, is I struggled, right? And then I made some insights. I'm going to talk specifically the French horn because I consider myself a decent French horn teacher. I've had some great students, and I actually have several students that have gotten high scholarships. I've got one that, as long as COVID doesn't throw any wrenches, is planning to study in Vienna this summer. Like, I've had good students. And the reason I bring this up is, if I simplify it to this, the reason I've had good students is I made all the mistakes, learned from them, developed a system for teaching the French horn. And then instead of students learning that at the age I learned, which was like 28, 29, 30, somewhere in that area, and it took me 10 years to kind of develop, I was able to introduce my system back maybe as early as 12, 11, right? So in essence, I can impart wisdom from what I had learned and struggled with and overcome, and I can place it earlier in their development, which in essence allows them to be way better than I ever was at their age, right? Now, if we just follow that simple logic, that should be how the education system works, okay? Now, as I go deeper and dive deeper in this idea of going from teacher to mentor, I'm going to fast forward to now. So as I'm teaching distance learning and stuff, what I've really appreciated and enjoyed about my teaching lately is that I'm not just teaching music. I'm able to teach concepts within my own music teaching that are talking about personal growth, and I have systems and I can model. And this dawned on me probably a couple weeks ago, and it's been kind of stewing and simmering in my brain. But as I think about my goal as a teacher, it's to not be a teacher. It's to move from being a teacher to a mentor. And here's what the difference. This is how I'm envisioning the difference. And so if you can relate to this, or you can see this vision, I would encourage you to think about how you could do this. But basically, a teacher is a person who imparts knowledge on a subject. That's it. They're knowledgeable in the subject and they teach the subject, which there's nothing wrong with that. We need as many great teachers in our system as possible. A mentor, though, is a person who embodies a system, embodies something that you want to learn, right? Now, again, I hope this isn't too disjunct because I want to give lots of examples. In the music world, I consider myself a mentor in the French horn. And why that is I am very knowledgeable on the subject of music, but I am also trying to live a life of playing the horn professionally. And again, I used to define success as being in the Chicago Symphony or the New York Phil or whatever, and I didn't achieve that. But as I grew, my definition of success, right, consistent effort over time equals success, my definition of success changed to just be competent, to be able to empower other kids. Like it actually went from more of being a performer to being a person of knowledge on the French horn who could mentor and teach other horn players who then theoretically could go out and impart more wisdom. In essence, I should say my definition of success is to create value in people, right? And specifically at first it was in the French horn. Now I'm in this growth area where I'm a music teacher as well, but even teacher, like education. So as I become more convinced and more confident in my systems, as I become more aware of how what I do every day is feeding both my professional life, my personal life, my overall demeanor, my wisdom. I mean, there's so many areas in my life where what I do daily keeps improving. And again, this is why that book, The Compound Effect, is so important. I've just started getting consistent about these, my habits. And what's cool too is once I've gotten really good at my habits, I find that I have more time to make videos like this. And it's easier. And I don't feel like I'm pressed for time and I'm always tired because, again, I have good habits. All right. So what this means, though, is as I've been teaching in the last month or two with COVID restrictions and being distance learning, I've really consciously thought about the idea of not being a music teacher or a teacher in general, but being a mentor. So that means having a life through leading by example that my students could emulate, that I have my core values set, my daily disciplines, my daily habits show any student how they can be successful, right? Now, right here, I might trigger some people, okay? But I want to be very clear. I fell into this category, right? So I just want to be very clear. This is really more a reflection on me 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, whenever I started teaching. So I humble myself and I say that I get that I'm part of this, but I could also trigger some people, okay? I don't even like that word trigger, but I'm just going to use it to trigger warning you. One of the small things I have noticed in my limited sphere and limited exposure in the education system is we have too many teachers and not enough mentors. And what I mean by that is we have so many people that are knowledgeable in their subject matter and know all the little tricks and whatever, and they know how to teach social emotional learning, which that's another thing I'm going to make a video eventually of. But bottom line is they're just good in their subject. And then the rest of their life is kind of a mess. Me preaching the choir. Okay. But my point is, and I guess I kind of look at this. There's several phrases that I think about, like if you can't do the small things well, you can't do the big things well. That's something that I'm becoming more and more aware of. I think we understand that as music teachers. I think we understand that as elementary teachers. But we don't pause and look back and go, what's the root cause? Well, if I'm being 100% honest, and this is because I fall into this category, why I couldn't have been a great mentor before is because I didn't have my life in order. My house wasn't in order. I didn't have the right habits. I hadn't trained my mind to be stronger than my feelings, right? My feelings ruined me. So if I had a bad day at work or a fight with my ex or just anything that was negative or felt like a failure as a father or whatever, or, like those things would affect my mood and I wouldn't teach as well. And like I said, this is not to pass judgment on anyone, but it is to kind of illustrate that if we're going to be the best teachers, the best mentors, or we're going to go from being teachers to mentors, really, we need to look at ourselves first, right? Now, we've heard a lot about, taking care of yourself and personal care and mental care or whatever. But here again, this might just be me, but I've also realized that a lot of people aren't transparent enough. So I never know if I can relate to them or not. So I'll just, again, Be honest, open, and vulnerable. One of my issues with trying to do self-care was I never knew what would make me feel better. Meaning I would try going dancing, something I like to do. The world tells us when you're stressed, drink. So, I mean, maybe I would drink on the weekends. There's all these things that the world tells us, well, this will help you relieve stress. But guess what? It never helped me relieve stress, period. It actually made me a worse person in a way. And so the dilemma is people would say, well, take care of yourself. But I didn't know how to. So even though I used to think I was trying to find time for myself or do things, all those things always stressed me out more. And so the irony is the lack of clarity of habits in my life, unfortunately, made me a subpar teacher. I was super knowledgeable in the content area. I was very confident. I had no problem. I've always been very aware of the content of music. But I let my life circumstances always creep in. And as I change, I look at this idea that if we are going to be the best teachers in the education system, we all really, and I'm talking to myself too, but we all really need to figure out a system that will take us from being a teacher to a mentor. Take us from living a life that's normal like everyone else does, which, to be honest, most people aren't living great lives. I'm sorry if that offends you. I wasn't leading a great life. I still have things I got to work on, but I absolutely desire to live a life of purpose, of value, and I want my life to be great. I want my life to be great for my kids. But what's hard is I have to figure out the system to do that. Okay. So all that, again, coming back to you now, hopefully I haven't lost you and it's just been all over the board. But so what I encourage you now is if the things I talk about in this video, and I will over time talk more about my systems, more and more about my personal growth systems and how I'm implementing them and what I'm doing. But bottom line is find a system, daily system, a daily habit. Okay. Find it what works for you. If reading relieves your stress, read daily. If writing and reading, if exercise is the key. All of those I think are important. Like all of my personal habits, and as I build my routines, I have all of that. I exercise in the morning. I listen to a personal growth audio while I exercise. I work out 7 days a week. Okay. I found a system that works. I read daily in the morning. I take my vitamins. I have a kind of a vitamin regimen that I do. I have a nighttime routine now, which includes journaling and praying and studying the Bible and other things. Again, if you're not religious, find whatever works for you, right? I try to find creative outlets because I want to be productive. So in a weird way, as the more productive I am, the more I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose in life, which has led me to these conclusions about education. And so anyway, to kind of hopefully wrap up, because sometimes I say, well, I'm going to wrap up and then I go off on another tangent. But to hopefully wrap up, I hope what you're getting out of this whole video is this idea that if we truly love teaching, individuals or as a collective, I would argue or I would challenge you to think about that you're getting your house in order, your life in order, looking at how your daily life is structured, getting rid of bad influences, right? We are the sum. I always say this: we're the sum total of our habits. Okay. Another phrase that I've been, again, in my personal growth has said the law of attraction. You are going to be the sum total of the 5 people who hang around with the most. If you surround yourself with 5s, let's say 4, 5s, and 6s, you're going to be a 5. If you surround yourself and your best friends are go-getters and they are ambitious, but they have character, they're 8s, 9s, and 10s, right? 8s, 9s, and 10s. Well, by default, you're going to be a 9. Now, obviously, you have to figure out what that means for you, right? Because what is your values? What are your core values? The dilemma is I can't tell you that, right? But as I grow, I have to figure out more and more what my core beliefs are, what I value, what are some of my goals, what do I want to accomplish? And then I have to find people of like-mindedness because that's going to be the goal. And if you think about that, that means finding other people that could be mentors, right? Now, as a teacher, I've always loved music. I've always thought music was important. Some of my other videos talk about why music really is the most important subject, in my opinion, humble opinion. But again, the more I think about it, it's like what I ultimately want is and I guess I'm saying this out to the world. I'm saying it out to the world. So maybe someone can call me on it. Maybe 2 years from now, I look back and hopefully I'm doing something in this area. But I just feel called in this last 6 months to be a voice of reason when it comes to the education system. Anyway, let me wrap up. I said wrap up again, but I hope this has been clear, because I think again, stream of consciousness, didn't know exactly where I was going with this one. I desire to be a mentor. I want to go from a teacher to a mentor. I want my students to see a life that is led by example, where I can clearly articulate and clearly demonstrate the specific success habits and success principles that I am living out every day. I want to show them that through that I've accomplished X, Y, and Z goals, because that is really the important part of the education system. When they leave high school, it's not about did they pass the math test. It's not about, it really shouldn't be. It's about the core habits and skills that they have that they can take to the next level, whether that's college, whether that's trade school, whether that's not, being an entrepreneur and skipping all that and building a business, whether that's building a great family and having different priorities. It's living the life they were meant to live. Every person can benefit from success principles, success habits. And if we as an education system and we as teachers embody a more mentor-like attitude and mentor-like daily habit where kids could literally emulate what we do and we lead by example, that's how we fix the education system. Remember, consistent effort over time equals success.